And we are back with the fifth and the final segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this final segment, I'm just going to go ahead and go over the Olympic Games that are going to be happening tomorrow. And, just explaining and not really explaining, but just going over some of the predictions that I have for these games and, the results that I have for these games, as well as, who I think is going to perform, who I think is going to win, and what happens if, which other side ends up winning, right? Like what happens when, let's say, France ends up winning, or what happens when, let's say, Brazil ends up winning. I'm just going to go ahead and go over that and, just like the possible outcomes and this, that, and all of the things that end up happening. So for tomorrow, right, because the games, they are happening tomorrow, it's the only group that isn't going to be playing in these games is Group C. So those games the Group C games are going to happen on Wednesday. And so, it's going to be back-to-back days. Like on Tuesday, you're going to see the Group A and B, and then on Wednesday, you're going to see the Group C, and I believe that's the pattern that these guys are going to follow every single time. And, the next game after that is going to be on Friday. Therefore, after Friday, there's going to be the next game on Sunday. And then, not Sunday, but then on Saturday, on Sunday and Monday, they're going to take a break from basketball and resume playing basketball. So that's really like how the schedule is going to look like going into the future. Now, for Tuesday, the teams that are going to be playing in the Group A phase is Spain and Greece. They're going to match up against each other. And then Canada and Australia are going to match up against each other. Now, Spain and Greece, they play at 5 o'clock in the morning, I believe, at Eastern time. I believe. Again, I could be wrong. And then for the next game, Canada and Australia is going to be at 7:30. Now, the reason why I'm I have these times is because I think they're using the European type of time where it's you go from 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. And then when you get up to 12, 12 in the afternoon, instead of going back to 1, you go to 13, 14, 15, and things like that. So then the next game is Japan going up against France, and they play at 11:15. And then in the final game, that, by the way, Japan and France are in Group B, by the way. Then in the final game, Brazil goes up against Germany, and they play at, according to the website that I'm looking at, they play at 15 o'clock, which I guess would be 3 o'clock for all of you guys that use the American time. And so for Spain and Greece, now Spain, they ended up losing their first game, and I think that tonight is going to be no different. I feel like Greece is going to end up beating the Spaniards because, quite frankly, I don't think there's anyone on Spain that can really guard Giannis. I feel like Giannis is going to have a field day with this Spanish group, and I think, while neither of the teams are rather, good, Spain is arguably a better team than the Greek team is, but I have a feeling that, with Giannis's level of play, I think the Greek team is going to, play just as well as Giannis plays, right? Because unlike the NBA playoffs, where it's the best team is definitely going to win the series, the best team that plays the best in a series, it's different in these kind of games where it's you only play one game, and it's if you play one game and you're bad in that one game, that's it. It's a winner go home type of league. Now, obviously they're in the group phases, so it's not winner go home yet, but every single one of these games counts because you need to increase that point differential. And I don't think this is going to be how should I say this? I don't think this is going to be an easy game. No team is going to come out blowing out the other. I think this is going to be the only close game out of every single game that I mentioned. And really, that's all the opinions that I got. And it's really just dependent on Giannis and how he plays. But I think the Greek team is going to end up coming out on top. Now, if Giannis doesn't play well, then Spain is coming out on top, because I feel like Spain's team is, a little bit more solid than Greece's team. Next is Canada going up against Australia. And this is going to be one of those really exciting matchups because Canada is, it's loaded with NBA talent, as well as Australia being loaded with NBA talent. And, with both of those players not really both of those players, but with both of those teams having all of these players, then, it's just like it's going to be a very, very nice, competition, because all of them, they have NBA talent. So I feel like they're all going to be scoring very, very well. And I think this is going to be a pretty good game, but I do think that Canada is going to blow out the Australian team. I fully believe that that's what's going to happen. But that is that's still down for, opinions, but I really feel like that's just the best possible outcome or the most likely outcome that is going to happen. And then just so I can note, and just so you guys can note, if Canada ends up winning, then they'll be 2-0 in the Group A standings, and they'll be the best team. And, same thing that applies for Australia, because both of those teams are 1-0 right now. So, depending on which one of them, if it's a close game, then you could probably see the Australian team, well, depending on who wins, like let's say Australia ends up losing, right? They'll be 1-1. Now, whichever team now they just gotta hope that Greece and Spain, they don't win in a blowout. If they end up winning, you just got to hope that they don't win in a blowout, because if they do win in a blowout, their point differential might end up being better than Australia's, therefore dropping Australia all the way down to number 3 in their standings, as opposed to remaining in number 2, because again, point differential is going to be the tiebreaker. Next is, the next game that I feel like I should talk about is Japan and the French. They're going into the Group B stages. Now, of all the teams that are in these kinds of, standings, I feel like Group B is arguably the weakest group in the entire Olympics in terms of the teams that are on it. Like, the only two teams that you should really be worried about are Germany and France. Like, I feel like those teams are without a doubt going to come out on top. Like, I don't see any other team in the Group B standings making it out of those standings. I think it's just going to be Germany and France. It's really just going to be dependent on who, goes to the 1 and who goes at the 2 seed, right? So Japan plays France, and I feel like France is just going to absolutely dominate Japan in this game. And this is going to push Japan even further down in their point differential, because they're already down. They're already at minus 20 for their point differential. So even if they were to win out the rest of the games, they would have to win out by a lot if they want to make it past the group stages. But again, don't really feel like that's going to happen. Next on the list is Brazil going up against Germany. Again, this is one of those other games where I feel like there's just going to be a blowout. I think Germany is going to end up coming out on top in this game, and there's really just there's no contest. Like the Group A phase, like the Group A and that team, the teams in Group A arguably are I said Group A like 50,000 times. I apologize, but they're arguably the best group and the most balanced group in the entire Olympics, right? Now, Group C is like, I used to think it was Group C that was the worst in the entire Olympics, but after South Sudan ended up winning their first Olympic game, and just the fact that South Sudan was this close to beating the United States, I think the standings are they're definitely not the worst. They might be second best to the Group A standings, but I really think Group C, it's no longer the worst anymore, because Puerto Rico is playing pretty well as the Serbian team. They still have Jokic. Again, while Jokic you need to play Jokic in order to be a dominant force with the Serbian team. There's still like, a team that, you need to worry about, because guarding Jokic is not really that easy. Now, on top of that, South Sudan, it doesn't seem like it's easy to stop South Sudan either. So just food for thought, right? So those are the games that are going to happen on Tuesday. Those are the results that I think are going to end up happening. And that's really all that I have for you guys on this final segment. Thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. As usual, please remember to use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes it much more interactive between myself and you guys. Thank you so much for tuning into this show. I am your host, Nelson, and as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to